Okay, welcome back to part 3 of our lecture on digital genres. So now we're going to move into blogs, which is particularly pertinent to us and our assignments this semester. I think that blogs serve as a really interesting example of the way that the genre of kind of blogging has changed over time, but also some things that have stayed the same. And I encourage you to kind of keep this stuff in mind as you're developing your work for assignment 1. So do you remember this from last week? This is a much clearer example of Robot Wisdom, which was an early blog that we discussed last week in our lecture. So just to kind of refresh your memory on Robot Wisdom, this was one of the early blogs that existed pre-Google, pre-search engine being really popular. And blogs like this one, they were really just kind of lists with hyperlinks, and they were used by other early internet users as kind of directories. So here you can see that the person who created this blog, or weblog as it would have been known back then, is just saying, you know, an excellent review of the new Patti Smith bio in the New York Observer. Here is a link to that. Do you want to read a wire story on weblogs? Here is a link to that. How Laurie Anderson composed her Moby Dick in the Village Voice. I would love a link to that. We didn't have Google to sort of type in and search for things and find what we needed when this was a popular way of blogging. So we needed pioneers of the internet to sort of curate these blogs with lists and links to help us to find cool stuff on the internet. It wasn't sorted by date. There weren't really any images. There was obviously a banner image, but no real images were used. There was very limited scope of personal exploration or exposition. It's really just like, you know, conservative girl zines on campus in lingua franca. Go and find that over there. But they were really useful directories pre-Google. And then last week, we also looked at the more contemporary equivalent between old blogs, new blogs. So this is the design files, as I talked about last week. A lot has changed between the late 1990s and today. And that means that blogs have gone from lists of links that are really not very interactive to a really interactive, user-centered, personalized, engaging, you know, visually engaging platform. So Google has done away with the need for a link directory style blog, as we've seen in Robot Wisdom. And web authoring software has evolved and developed to become more sophisticated. So you can, without a lot of kind of technical skill, build a beautiful platform that looks like this. The physical infrastructure has improved so that images, sounds, videos, all kinds of rich media are really easy to both view, so users can view them, but also to embed and incorporate. So that's an example of users and platforms coming together. If we didn't have any ability to view video online, there'd be no need for us to be able to make it easy to embed it into our blog posts. So there's a lot of kind of questions around what came first, the sort of chicken and egg questions around users versus platforms and what has influenced what and how things have evolved. I don't really know the answer to the question of like what came first, the chicken or the egg. But what I can say is that the way that platforms develop and the way that platforms change and the way that affordances are refined and the way they evolve is heavily influenced on the way that users use a particular platform. So getting down to the sort of more nitty-gritty of things, this is kind of the way we understand to be the architecture of a contemporary website and blog. I'm just going to skip back up to Robot Wisdom to show you really the extent of what we could see there. We have Robot Wisdom. It's a one-page list of links, and that was kind of it. And now we come to something like this, which often has this kind of architecture. So you have a home page, you have a static about page, you have a static contact form. This is kind of how yours will, your websites for your assignment will evolve. And then you have a blog, which has a scrolling list of posts. So it's not static. And then if we look at the way that a blog post itself is understood, or the architecture of a blog post, there's sort of a header with the navigation bar, the main content, a sidebar, and then a footer. And if you go into WordPress and you try and you go into write a new blog post, this is kind of the structure that you'll be presented with, and you get to kind of edit and fill in and change and adapt and add content to different parts of this. So you can have a sidebar with a list of your other blog posts, or a sidebar with different blogs that you like to read. A blog roll, we used to kind of call that. I don't think that's really an accepted term anymore, but that's what that is. A footer, which might have links to your Instagram or your LinkedIn page or your Twitter. The main content, which is at the body of the essay that you're going to be writing for your assignments, and that might have images or videos or lots of different subheadings, and we'll talk about that in much more detail in the coming weeks. Oh, sorry. We also have a blog subgenres. So just like any kind of genre classification, we also have subgenres. And if we think about Instagram as a platform, Instagram posts have subgenres. So either Instagram stories or Instagram kind of grid posts. They're different kind of things, and they kind of serve different functions. Blogging has different subgenres. So there's a very popular type of blogging is news blogging. This doesn't always come from an individual writing alone. HuffPost, which used to be called the Huffington Post, it started as a group blog and news aggregator in 2005, and it's gradually morphed into an important side of journalism. It won a Pulitzer Prize in 2012. In the coming weeks, we're going to talk about the kind of way that news has been legitimized by online news. Digital news has sort of been legitimized by kind of old-timey kind of markers of prestige, like prizes, like money, and journalism kind of conventions. You can also have fashion blogs. I mean, there's as many blog subgenres as there are things in the world, but you know, these are the kind of really common ones. So a good example of that is Zoella. So Zoe Sugg was a British teenager. She launched her blog when she was working for an interior design company, and Zoella has evolved into a vlog or a video blog and a multi-million-pound business, which has kind of spun off into all these other different kind of media. So books and podcasts and videos and, you know, TV and all these kind of things. And then business blogging is also very common. So Mitch Joel has a very popular business blog, and there's a lot of business blogs that are centered around digital communications. 6 Pixels of Separation is Mitch Joel's blog. It's about digital marketing. LinkedIn is a really interesting player as a social media platform that intersects with blogging a lot. LinkedIn has a blogging platform that any of their users can use, and it's really helped to support the genre of business blogging. And a lot of business blogs have moved on to LinkedIn and use the LinkedIn platform almost sort of exclusively in their as a way of getting their content out there. And it's really important to remember why it is that a business blog might use the LinkedIn platform for to support their writing about business and communications. Think about why that might be. And finally, this week in our tutorials, we're going to discuss a range of different genres, platforms, practices related to writing in the digital space. We're going to watch some cool videos. Rihanna is featured, so like if that's what you're into, you're in for a treat. And we'll also work on writing different genres, and we've got a really great exercise about using kind of similar content but breaking it up into different types for different platforms and different audiences. So I will see you in the tutorials.